Hey folks, and welcome to Truck King. We got an exciting one today because we are here inside of a brand new Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro, and I've got David Chow with me from the Automotive Press YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us, David.
Hey, it's a lot of fun to work with you, Steven, so thanks for inviting me, and we are in Tacoma TRD Pro.
Exactly, and we're about to go off-road, so we're going to talk about this truck, how it handles, but I think mainly, David, I want to talk about, has it lived up to the hype? Because we talked about this thing for so long before it came out. Now it's been on the roads for the better part of a year. So yeah, let's really dive into it.
Okay, sounds good.
So here we are going for a drive. This is just a little unmaintained road here in Ontario. David and I are out here at an event together called Test Fest. This is held by the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada. That's AJAC. And of course, David, when I got there, my eyes just went straight towards the Tacoma. Because it's also the only truck at the event this year. But yeah, you know what? I've had a chance in this truck now, David, to be off-road. We actually recently compared it to the Trail Hunter on our channel, so got a really good sense for the differences, and I definitely came away from the TRD Pro fairly impressed with its off-road capability. I don't think it certainly lost anything compared to the last generation. And I think the other thing I will say quickly is I was really impressed the differences Trail Hunter to TRD Pro. They really are quite different, and they really do have their own objectives, off-roading wise. But I will say as well, there are a couple things where I feel like Toyota could have gone a little bit further with, maybe, especially in the current landscape in the market. So before I get into those details, let me just ask you, generally, how are you feeling about this new Tacoma and specifically the TRD Pro? Do you think they advanced it enough? Do you think they could have done more? And again, the trail we're on today, it's pretty light off-roading, but still, you're gonna get some good feel for the suspension stuff. So I'm very curious your thoughts on this TRD Pro.
Yeah, definitely. So if you recall, Steven, I owned a 2019 and a 2021 Tacoma TRD Pro.
Yeah.
Back then when the trucks were still pretty affordable, right? And so I've had those for a number of years, and I don't have them anymore because I switched over to Tundra. Then I switched over to Land Cruiser, and then now I'm driving this. And I would say the biggest difference is just the kind of maturity of the overall driving feel. So like ride, NVH, noise vibration. Oops.
Nice.
Noise vibrations and the harshness, the overall quietness, the feel of the steering, like the whole thing has matured to a point where the Tacoma TRD Pro feels a little bit more like an SUV, a little bit more moving toward a little bit more like a 4Runner,
right?
In terms of comfort level, in terms of refinement.
Absolutely.
But even just like going over these bumps, I think in my old Tacoma TRD Pro, it loses composure a little bit, right? It's a bit bouncy, but I feel like these suspensions have been engineered to balance the truck much better, and even though like one of the biggest difference between the old one and the new one is that the old one had the hydraulic power steering, just like a 24 4Runner still has hydraulic, and they moved to electric power steering. So I was really worried that we're going to lose all this sensation on the steering because most electric power steerings are not very good in providing that feedback. But I was pleasantly surprised to say they did a really good job of maintaining some road feel, like almost to the point where you could be fooled into thinking this is hydraulic because it's heavy enough, it's weighty enough that it provides a good sensation on the road. So I'm really glad about that. I'm really glad. Whereas many vehicles, trucks, SUVs, they all went into very light steering, and I just can't stand that.
Totally agree. And when we had this truck, we did do some high speed stuff. So we got it up to 60 kilometers an hour, and that's really when you want that feedback. When you're really pushing it, you don't want it to feel wishy-washy. You don't want to just not get a sense for the vehicle from your hands.
Yeah.
And I thought that as well. The steering really felt nice. And I'll agree with your first point too. What I called it was just daily drivability. I feel like that got better in almost every way. Suspension comfort, seating position. So that's it. In every way, I would say this truck is just a better drive, daily if you're just taking it to work than the old one was.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And Of course, the other big difference is that, we went from a 3.5 liter V6 engine to the 2.4 turbo four-cylinder engine with or without hybrid. Of course, Tacoma TRD Pros and Trail Hunters are all hybrids.
Right.
And interesting enough, I have the exact same setup in my 2024 Land Cruiser that I purchased a few months ago, but the application, the engineering, the calibration tuning is better in the Tacoma TRD Pro than the Land Cruiser, because somehow the Land Cruiser just feels like it's not quite there yet in terms of like back and forth between hybrid turbo and the engine just working together. It's just not quite smooth. But on Tacoma TRD Pro, regardless of whether we're driving on a road like this or back in the highway, it just has a really smooth transition, and you could almost fool yourself into thinking that this might still be a V6 engine. Partly because of this engine sound, the roar, some of it fake, of course, and kind of make you feel like you're driving a V6. So I think the tuning, the engineering, just the whole, sort of the aligning of the engine, the transmission, I think they've done a really good job. And if this is what we're going to get in the next gen 4Runner, which none of us have driven yet, we have some hopes that going from V6 to Turbo 4 is not always bad. Right? So, because you also get so much more power and torque in a setup like this. It's a tremendous amount of torque. So when you're going up a hill like this, I don't have to step on the gas that much. I'm just literally tapping on the accelerator and we just go up the hill. So those are some big differences we notice.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously I think the hybrid system helps when you have that Turbo 4 just to mask some of the turbo lag. Like you said, it kind of goes from the battery power off the line into the engine, then into the turbo. But I will agree that it's quite smooth. The transition is seamless. And I'll also admit I wasn't a huge fan of the 3.5 liter V6 and the Tacoma before. So, I think that they had room for improvement, and they made it here without, making a huge hit to fuel economy. In fact, it's a little bit better than the V6 was in my experience. So those are all positives. I absolutely agree that it feels maybe a little more grown up, refined, grown up, mature. I think those are all good words for this new Tacoma.
Unfortunately, the prices have also grown up.
Yes, absolutely they have. And that's it. We can get into a few downsides because not all is perfect in Tacoma world, and you're absolutely right about the price. Now, again, you can't just blame Toyota here. It is across the industry a little bit, but that's regardless of the fact that this truck, at over $80,000 Canadian, just feels so expensive.
It's a lot of money.
And it's the old story of at that price, it better be incredible, right? Like I can't forgive it for anything because you're paying that money for it. And that's where I'll get to my next point, which is for sort of the hardcore off-road crowd, I was surprised Toyota didn't do something with their front differential, whether it be limited slip or locker. And you can argue over how, useful that is off-road, but the fact of the matter is that the competitors have it.
That's
So I thought Toyota might have done something there, and they didn't. The other thing we felt when I had the truck, and I don't know if you've had the chance to tow with it yet, but with the lack of leaf springs in the back, when you're pushing the limits, we towed 5,000 pounds worth of concrete. It was a little squishier than the last truck. You just lost some of that stiffness, a bit of that confidence from the towing experience. And Ram has already been in this territory now for many, many years, and everyone knows the Ram 1500, it's going to squat a little bit more than its competitors, but also the daily drivability is better. So there's a trade-off there, and Toyota made that trade, and we definitely felt it, where daily driving way better, but when you're really loading it up with weight, I don't want to say necessarily worse, it's just a busier driving experience. As the driver, you're doing more to compensate for what the vehicle's doing underneath you.
I guess Toyota knows that 95% of the drivers wouldn't tow that much.
Totally.
It could be maybe less, I'm not sure. It could be more than 10% people towing, I don't know. But
especially in this segment, midsize, I don't think it's a huge priority for many people. And that's it, and that's how these decisions are made, which is totally fair, but it just has to be mentioned that if that's something you were really looking for, the most solid tow rig in the midsize segment, I would say this one took a bit of a step back.
Yes, and so, but however, when you're driving a road like this, like kind of kind of, what you call it?
Sure.
Undulating.
Yeah.
Is that even a word?
Yeah.
Anyway, in the old Tacoma, the back end is really busy. Like it twists and turns
100%.
a lot with the leaf spring, but with the coils in the back, honestly, it does feel like SUV.
Right.
Now, I think on the highway speed, like you said, it is very mature, but it's a bit bumpier, of course, than let's say a 4Runner, just because 4Runner SUVs have lots of weight in the back. But if you put a weight in the pickup bed, I don't know, some bags of sand or whatever, it will settle down.
Sure.
I think then it'll be comparable. But I thought I would never say this because I really liked my old Tacoma. I was even thinking of trying to find a used one, but I think I actually like the new one better now.
Nice.
Overall, as a daily driver, I would take the new Tacoma over the old one.
I agree with you, and I'll say the one big thing for me personally, I'm a big guy, was always the seating position.
Right,
I could never find that comfortable spot for me. So yeah, that alone for me was a huge change in my book. So I totally agree that I would take the new truck over the old one for just about everything.
Except for the price, maybe.
Except for the price, yeah. But maybe we'll see a downturn. I feel like the market is shifting right now, and there are some brands that are struggling. So we'll have to see if the sales stay strong. I know Tacoma sales through year to date were down a little bit, but on the same time, I know they're changing over model year to model year. So we have to kind of give it time to see what the effect of the new truck really is in sales.
Well, we're still excited for Tacoma as the model matures, like you said.
Sure.
Maybe they'll have a facelift in 2 to 3 years. Usually facelift is the 4th or the 5th year. So let's say, I don't know, 2029, you'll probably see a facelift, and maybe they'll make the isometric seats optional instead of standard on this Tacoma TRD Pro, because it just takes up so much space, right?
It does. And again, that's another one of these features where, especially on a slow speed road, I'm not sure you're getting very much advantage at all. And even when we were running it at high speeds, I can't say I felt a huge difference. So as you just said, it'd be nice to make them optional at least, right?
I think so. Yeah, and then these JBL speakers that you can take it off from a dash, that kind of stuff. It's a bit gimmicky, I think, but well, I guess they're trying to differentiate the truck a little bit.
Right, but that's it. I think there's 100% a market for somebody who wants the capability without all those little toys, just to be able to save, some money. So let's hope Toyota's listening, because that's good advice right there.
Do you want to go on the highway for just a little bit, or?
Yeah, it's fine by me.
Okay. So we'll just take the truck on the highway just to show you that the drivability and the comfort levels are really good.
And it does sound okay. Like, again, I recognize that some of it's fake, but it's really not too bad. Even some of these Turbo 4s can get really whiny, and this doesn't seem to be one. And same thing, the revs, it shifts nice and smooth, so it doesn't feel like you're kind of whining away in the high RPM. And yeah, it's not a terrible sound.
Yeah, we're driving at just exactly 100 kilometers per hour right now, and honestly, it just feels like a normal SUV, very steady, very comfortable. Again, NVH is excellent.
Right.
Just a little bit of that fake engine sound coming through.
Yeah.
And the steering has a good on-center feel. It's tracking well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, if you compare to the old Tacoma TRD Pro, which was a beautiful truck, I really liked that.
Sure.
But this is just an easier truck to drive daily. Maybe not for towing, perhaps, but
no. But I agree with what you said earlier, which is that's what most people truly care about. So that's what Toyota focused on.
Yeah. No, I think overall we're impressed, and we can't wait to drive this twin model coming up, which is the new 4Runner. See how that will fare once we get to drive it. But I know that I'll see Steven again in many different places, hopefully throughout the year, and we can talk more about trucks.
Yeah, sounds good to me, David. It's always a pleasure to make videos. And yeah, folks, I think that's the end of this one. This is our sort of overview thoughts on this new Tacoma. And I'll agree, I think almost everything's positive. I'm excited to see how it evolves. And if they can just, cut us some slack on that price, then it would really be a totally compelling
That'd be a
package.
bonus.
But yeah, folks, that's it for this one. So now, of course, we need to hear from you. Drop in the comments. Make sure you let us know what you think of the Tacoma. Make sure you go check out David's channel. I will put a link to it down in the description, Automotive Press, and you can see all the great work he does over there. And then, as always, while you're down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit join to become a member of the Truck King channel, and then come right back here to see what we're testing next. See ya.
See you guys.